Hi, my name is Anna Eden, and I am a MSND DI student at Eastern Illinois University, and today I'm going to talk to you about the authentic leadership theory. First, I just want to go over the outline for this presentation. So I'm first going to start with a definition, and then I'm going to move into the origin of the theory and where the concept began. Then I'll explain the theory and how it can be applied. I will then explain the strengths and weaknesses of the theory, and then I will talk about an example of an authentic leader in history, and then I will sum up the presentation with a summary. So to start off this presentation, I just want to give you a definition of the word authentic. And the reason I want to define this word is to give you just a good understanding of what it means to be an authentic leader. So just keep this definition in mind throughout the presentation. So the word authentic means not false or imitation, real, actual, true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. So the concept of authenticity actually came about in Greek philosophy. It was originally defined in terms of individual values and ethical choices, and it was necessitated by the declining religious and civic values of the time. People were yearning for a moral response to such a decline in society. Then later on, authentic leadership was defined in a human psychology perspective, and in this perspective, leaders are viewed as continually developing into self-actualized individuals. If you remember the Maslow's hierarchy, that's what that's referring to. And then these individuals see themselves in a clear and accurate way, and they're not hindered by others' expectations of them. Further on down the road, authentic leadership gained some roots in transformational leadership theory, and that's what we learned about last week from Courtney. And although it was mentioned in the research for transformational leadership, it was never defined or fully explained. So finally, authentic leadership gained more of a popularity and understanding around 2003 when Bill George came out with his book on authentic leadership. So what is authentic leadership? Well, authentic leadership is actually very complex and multidimensional for a leadership theory. Chan from Nordhaus explains that there is no single accepted definition of authentic leadership. There are several definitions that are uniquely written from different perspectives. So this makes it difficult to actually define it. However, there are three specific definitions that we can go off of from the research. The first definition is an intrapersonal perspective. This means that the leader looks within himself and discovers and recognizes his own self-knowledge, self-regulation, and self-concept. These leaders are genuine, and they also have strong convictions and are very unique or very original. In addition, these leaders lead from their own life experiences and allow these experiences to form their leadership style. The second definition is the interpersonal process, or interpersonal perspective, either way you'd like to say it. And this is where the leader and the followers actually work together in a symbiotic relationship. And the leader puts forth efforts and the followers respond. And the response from the followers is what actually drives the leader's efforts. So this interaction between the leader and the followers deepens the authenticity, and it's a reciprocal process. Leaders affect the followers, and followers affect the leaders. The third and final definition is the developmental perspective, and in this definition, the leadership's traits are continually developing over time, and they aren't fixed but are rather nurtured. These leadership skills and traits develop and deepen over time, with major life events triggering the continual growth. So we just learned about the definition of authentic leadership theory, and that is very complex. But there are also a couple of different types of applications for the theory. In the first application, it's a practical application, and it was put forth by Bill George. He described authentic leadership as practical, and in his approach, authentic leaders possess 5 important qualities. And this model here on the right just encompasses those 5 traits that authentic leaders should have, and then the effect those traits should have on those individuals. So authentic leaders should have a strong sense of purpose, strong values about the right thing to do. They should establish trusting relationships, demonstrate self-discipline, and then act on their values. And lastly, they should be sensitive and empathetic to the needs of others. So all of these qualities determine whether an individual is an authentic leader or not, and to what extent a person is an authentic leader. So this is a specific model put forth by Bill George, and it is the practical application. Next, I will talk about the second type of application for this theory. A theoretical application was also put forth for this leadership theory, and it was put forth by Lufens and Avolio. So authentic leadership consists of 4 distinct parts in the theoretical application. These parts include self-awareness, which refers to understanding oneself, being aware of one's strengths, weaknesses, values, and morals. Also, it includes internalized moral perspective, which is where one allows their morals and values to guide them and their behaviors. Next, it includes balanced processing, which according to Nordhaus refers to an individual's ability to analyze information objectively and explore other people's opinions before making a decision. And this just means that that person is balanced in their thoughts and in their decision making. They're able to be objective and not just base their decisions off of their own feelings and thoughts. And lastly, it includes relational transparency, which refers to always being honest and open about feelings and motives. As seen on this model here, you would couple the positive psychological capacities, which include confidence, optimism, hope, and resilience, with the moral reasoning, which refers to ethics and whether the leader is capable of making ethical decisions and to what extent. You would apply those to the critical life events in one's life, which could refer to illnesses, accidents, a marriage, the birth of a child, a big move, or a promotion. And then apply those to, or those produce the 4 components here, the self-awareness, internalized moral perspective, balanced processing, and relational transparency, and that determines authentic leadership, and that would show in the next slide here. I have the measurements for the extent of authentic leadership, and that's what this model is used for. So I also wanted to talk about the Authentic Leadership Questionnaire, or the ALQ. It has been established by Wallumbwa and Associates in order for leaders to decipher whether they are acting as an authentic leader and to what level they are leading authentically. So it's a very straightforward questionnaire and very easy to understand with very little ambiguity or none at all. And as you can see, it measures the 4 components we just talked about: self-awareness, internalized moral perspective, balanced processing, and relational transparency. So an individual will take this questionnaire, tally their results, get the score, and then the score will then determine the level of authentic leadership one is at. So in a research study put forth by Fusco, O'Riordan, and Palmer, the authentic leadership theory was put to the test to see if its application was effective or not in coaching groups. It was 5 3-month-long group coaching interventions over a 2-year period, and it used repeated measures design. And it was evaluated, or they were evaluated, using the Authentic Leadership Questionnaire and the Authentic Leadership Inventory. After evaluating over this 2-year period, Fusco, O'Riordan, and Palmer determined that the authentic leadership coaching groups were effective forms of leadership and effective forms of authentic leadership development. And this just goes to show that the application of the theory is effective and it does work. So why is authentic leadership important, and why was it even proposed in the first place? So according to Sparrow, leaders at all levels and types of organizations are facing the challenge of declining hope and confidence in themselves and their associates. So authentic leadership can actually help to restore that trust and confidence in leaders. As you can see, I put there radical social change. But during radical social change, people are searching for honest, authentic leaders, and this leadership style can actually help fill that need. One example is 9/11. There was a lot of anxiety and fear, and people had a strong desire for a trustworthy, honest leader, and this leadership style helped fill that need for the people who were searching for that authentic leader. There are also quite a few statistics that show that authenticity is very low in businesses, and people are searching for that. So here in a 2004 U.S. poll, only 1/3 of the U.S. working population found leaders to be authentic. That's a pretty low statistic. And also less than 1/4 of respondents to this poll thought that their leaders would be capable of self-sacrifice for the good of their organization. And then also in a 2009 U.S. National Leadership Index, about 2/3 of the respondents didn't trust their business leaders' words or what they said. And 80% of the respondents thought their leaders only cared about themselves and worked for their benefit. So these statistics are pretty alarming, and they are grounds for a change in leadership style. And you can see why the authentic leadership style was proposed and put forth. And although it's a newer theory, it's been able to fill the need there. So next I just want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the authentic leadership theory. So going into the strengths, one of them is that the theory fulfills a need for trustworthy, honest leadership. This style also provides people with comfort and peace in an anxious time, and it allows for the building of a strong relationship between leaders and followers. So because followers' ideas and feedback are just as important as the leaders in this theory, the reciprocal relationship allows for deeper relationships. And then also the authentic leadership theory can be measured using the ALQ. So measuring the amount of authenticity in a leader can be very useful. So going to the weaknesses, it is a pretty new theory. There's not a lot of long-term research or data on it and its effects, so we don't know if it's producing long-term positive effects on followers or workers. In addition, it is difficult to define, as we talked about earlier, so many people view authentic leadership in their own perspective, and it can be kind of subjective in a way. And that is why there are several components to the definition, and it's hard to pin down just one specific definition. That can cause some confusion when deciding to lead in an authentic way and deciding to, or determining what authenticity is to you. And it can be argued that authenticity is a trait one is born with. And I know in this theory they are saying that authenticity is a developing trait, but it is hard to decipher what authenticity can mean to some people, and it can be kind of subjective in a way. So it's hard to decide whether this trait can be developed or if you're born with it. I also wanted to provide one example of a great authentic leader in history, and Nelson Mandela was a wonderful authentic leader. He fought to abolish slavery in South Africa, and he was a deeply moral man with strong values, and he never compromised on his morals and values. He was imprisoned for his beliefs, and he was offered an earlier prison date if he would just backtrack on his beliefs and say he didn't believe in what he did believe in. And he said no. He decided he was not going to backtrack on his beliefs, and he decided to stay in prison longer so that he could stay true to his morals and values. So it just shows his true character and authenticity, and he is a great example of an authentic leader that we've had in history. So to sum up, we went over the definition of authentic just so we could get an idea of what authentic leadership means in that context. Then we talked about the origin of authenticity, and it has roots in Greek philosophy, human psychology, and in the transformational leadership theory. Then we talked about what authentic leadership truly is and the definition of it. It's multidimensional and complex. It has interpersonal, and developmental definitions. Then we talked about the application of the theory in its practical and theoretical applications. And then we explained the importance of the theory and why it was proposed in the first place and the need for it today. We discussed the strengths and weaknesses of the theory and that it is a new theory, however it has proven to be quite strong. And then I explained an example of an authentic leader in Nelson Mandela, and that he never compromised on his beliefs, and that he stayed true to his morals and values. These are my references for my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation today. If you have any questions at all, here's my contact info. Thank you. Have a great day.